So we have the asana, the connection to the body, and then we have the pranayama. And now this is, there's the thought how to pranayama, and this is what the practices themselves teach us. Parting comb. Oh, there we go. And this is how to direct that flow of life force. And in simple terms, how do we direct the flow of life force?
Focus?
Yep, where we put our attention. In the most basic understanding, what we focus on directs the life force. And so just knowing that, now we can start to see this flow of life force. We can start to have some sort of accountability as far as this flow of life force, because now I can say, well, what have I been focusing my life force on throughout the day? And look back through my day, what have I been thinking about? And then wherever we put our attention, whatever that was, that's where your life force has been going. So we said we have the asana, and now we have the pranayama, this ability to direct the life force. And then we have what's called the shot karmas. And this is an ancient practice, but this is another one of these practices that has kind of been streamlined out of the mainstream American idea of what yoga entails. And the shot karmas are the 6 purifications. And we'll talk about the 6, classical purifications, but they're broad. And again, there's no right or wrong way to do these purifications. And so one of the things that has been a part of my practice is doing both the purifications in a classical way, and sometimes we have a modern way that works really good to do the same thing. And so it's not always about, sticking to the way. And then the other thing you see is when they talk about in the Pradipika, they give you the practices in a way so that even, they don't say, hey, oh my gosh, this herb, do you guys know about this herb? If you have access to chilkwawe, wow, chilkwawe is going to revolutionize your oral health, right? You spray that chilkwawe in your mouth, you'll never have another cavity again. Any canker sores, any type of, cuts or scrapes or gingivitis, that stuff is gone. Right? That's the truth. But then 2,000 years passes by, and that's written in this book, and everyone's like, what's chilkwawe? I don't even know what chilkwawe is. It was something from it was an herb that we knew about at a specific time in a specific place. So when they wrote these texts, they did a really good job of keeping it general, so that as they describe these shot karmas, they only describe the shot karmas using really simple things that you can find in your life. So the basic shot karmas are Daudi, which is described as the upper wash, which is the stomach, cleaning the stomach. And this is done the way that I was shown to do Dauti was by drinking a lot of water and regurgitating the water. So you drink a gallon of salt water and then you regurgitate that salt water, and a lot of stuff, mucus comes out. But one of the traditional ways that they describe it is by eating a piece of muslin cotton, like a long strip of muslin cotton cloth, and you eat it, but you don't swallow it. So you leave the end hanging out and you have to eat it. And the whole time you're going to swallow this cloth, it goes through like a bowl of milk or a bowl of water to lubricate it. And then at the very end, you pull it all out, and that cloth pulls out, a lot of mucus and stuff out of the stomach. And so that's Daudi.
Is this in here somewhere? Or
it's in your text. It's in the text. Yep.
Okay.
There's Basti, which is enema. And they talk about in the text, the traditional enema is to, go sit in river and engage Uddiyana Bandha and suck water up inside of yourself, right? Which is good skill to have. Or we now have these enema kits, which are pretty handy, and so you can get, and it's like each one of these things is just a doorway. Enema. You can follow the instructions in the Pradipika, or with the internet now, Google enema, and boom, you start. It's just like anything. Yeah, you just get started. The first site that comes up is like, we're selling blah blah blah. But next thing you know, you're on some chat group, and they're talking about the real deal. They're sharing real experience and all kinds of stuff. So, this is another one.
I'd recommend Dr. Gerson for the coffee enemas.
Gerson therapy. Yeah. It's coffee enemas is a way to go. That's a whole thing. You can look up coffee enemas, and they're pretty intense too. That's a lot of coffee, and so there's a lot of other gentle ways to do enema too. And like for instance, you could use just water or teas, various teas like that Tulsi tea, or people use all of these different types of things watered down. So just a little tea and then water. Or people use Epsom salts because of the magnesium, to get the magnesium, which is really useful for detoxification. Or a little bit of lemon, or lots of ways. People do apple cider vinegar, Castile soap, just all kinds of things. So that's one. So we have the Dowdy, Basti. Then we have Kapalabhati, which is the upper respiratory and cleans the breathways. And the Kapalabhati you're already familiar with. That's that sharp, short. This is one of the classical purifications. So Kapalabhati breath. Then there's Nauli. You guys familiar with Nauli, the abdominal churning? And so the Nauli is to exhale the breath from your lungs, suck up your belly into the ribs and hold it, and then churn. So let's see if you can see the churning here.
Oh my.
Whoa.
Whoa.
Holy crap.
Wow.
Want to try it?
Yeah.
Let's try Nauli.
One time my stomach ever did that was when there was a person in it.
Yeah. Next level. So it helps to have your hands on the knees, to bring your feet maybe mat width distance apart. Put your hands on the knees, lean forward into the knees, and then from here, exhale all the air out of the lungs. Suck the belly up, holding the breath out. And you're sucking the belly up into the ribs like you want to look like you're starving. And then from there, start to churn. And how do you churn? If I was going to describe how to do it, it's that you're using the suction of that breath to pull the abdominal muscles around in different ways. But it just takes a little bit of practice. It's one of those kind of, talk about hand-eye coordination. This is abdominal mind coordination. So there's a proprioception. So when you tell the belly to do something, we have to figure out what muscles to use to engage that. Yeah. So you practice it for a few days in a row, and then you get it.
Like I feel like I could get the sucking in part, but to get it doing the wave.
Practice it 3 days in a row, and you'll probably have it by the third day. It's like whistling or something, right? When you first try to whistle, you're like, and someone's like, well, it's just a little bit, like you were talking about the subtle tongue movements, the micro movements of the tongue, right? This is way actually less refined than whistling. Yeah.
Right.
Whistling is way harder than Nauli. But the same thing, we have to start to bring in an proprioception into the abdomen in order to be able to access and do that. So
Is it meant to be tiring to the abdominal muscles a little bit?
Not necessarily. So what it's meant to do is to go in and put pressure and stir up the internal organs. Right, so when you do that Nauli, you're massaging the intestinal tract, the digestive tract, the stomach, potentially hitting the liver. You're going in maybe maybe the gallbladder, maybe you can move stuff around in a way so that we're accessing our internal terrain. So that's the idea with the Nauli. And then the Nauli is also done in practice with the Basti, so that you take enema and you put this solution of water and magnesium salts up, and then you churn it around.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, and it dislodges stuff. It moves energy. So that's the idea here. So now we have Basti, Dowdy, Neti. Oh, we didn't talk about Neti yet. Neti is the upper wash. Yeah, so this is the upper respiratory wash. So the Neti is pouring the water in one nostril and out the other. So this is a good one too. And you can again use water with salt. You always add salt to the water. I don't know why, it just feels better if there's like a fourth a teaspoon salt. I get my neti pots. The ones I use are the Himalayan Institute's neti pots. They used to sell them at the co-ops. I don't know if they still do. I'm sure now there's a million different types of neti pots. You can see all different types of styles, and depending on your nostril size and all these types of things, or if you have a closed one nostril that's kind of closed. They have these other ones that are kind of shaped where the tip of it's like a little teapot, but the little spout is shaped like a triangle, so that you can put it in and then open the nostril as you push it in deeper. It actually holds it open, which can be helpful. And so this is neti, and we said salt water, but then from there the sky is the limit. You could also, I'll put chokwawe in with my neti pot, or we have a neti wash in the back, which has antimicrobial and respiratory herbs that are good for the sinuses and good to open up this whole area. So this is the fifth one, that's neti. And then the sixth one is called Tradaka. And there's six. Tradaka is gazing. And again, I think this is so ingenious how they describe this. So this is to make the eyes water. And so what you do is you look at a candle flame and without blinking. And then when the eyes start to water or burn, then you're done for the day. And with time you can last longer, you can gaze without blinking for longer, but it gets the waters moving in the eyes, and so you cry. But now some of us have been introduced to a medicine named Sananga. And Sananga is a plant from the Amazon, or the honey. They have this honey too, which I forget what they call it. But this Sananga, you put in the eyes, you put just a drop, and it burns like, you're crying, like, throbbing. It cleans out all the eyes. And I remember we were doing, it was the honey drops, but we had some people sitting in here receiving the Sananga or the honey drops, and afterwards someone had been crying so much that they left crud all over the floor. Like this stuff, their tears had fallen, but it's not just tears, it's like mucus and stuff coming out of your eyes.
Wow.
But again, Sananga comes from the Amazon, and our ability to have Sananga involves people who carry that medicine, bringing it to us. It's an honor and a privilege to have access to this super herb in this day and time. So they said, you don't need Sananga, all you need is a candle. You just look at a flame. And so these things are described in the Pradipika in a gentle and easy to do way. You don't need any special tools, you don't need any special rare, hard to find herbs. And if you find some Sananga, what's up?
Do you want cookies?
No, I'm okay right now. Do you want your hair braided?
Do you guys want cookies?
Hey.
Maybe.
I think so. We could bring 4 cookies down here, and
It's hard to say no to that.
it's Kathleen's recipe modified by the family now.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
We could do that.
That's a yes.
Okay.
Perks of being.
Yeah.
So this is the first, we talked about asana, pranayama, now shat karma. And these are the practices. These are the practical practices. So you remember how we started out with this abstract thing about opposition. And now what we're doing, the practice is to balance the right and the left. And because that's pretty abstract to balance the Republicans and the Democrats, right? Or to balance the tall and the short, what we start is, and it can be anything, anywhere where there's opposition, we balance the left and the right body. And we balance the inhale and the exhale. And this has the same effect. So if you balance the inhale and the exhale, you balance the right and the left body, and you fire up the left and the right nostril, and then go listen to a political debate. Yeah, you're going to be good. You're going to be able to see it in a new light. And that's how accessing this Sushumna, or this neutrality, allows us this perspective that it's good in our lives. Like on every chakra, this Sushumna is a beneficial thing to be able to access this neutrality. It's a beautiful thing because if in my relationship I can find a neutral place, then we're not so caught up in the, and then when we want to create that intensity, that tension, we have the ability to do that too, but sometimes we do need some neutrality to come to, this commonality, this communion. So this is the yoga, balancing the left and the right, the Hatha, balancing the left and the right in order to access this center, innermost, this Sushumna. Balancing the inhale and the exhale. From there, that's the pranayama. We did the asana, balancing the left and right body, the pranayama, balancing the inhale and exhale. Shat karmas, clearing the blockages. Jeffrey was mentioning that too, that we might have these blockages that in our voice that come from little, traumatic experiences that we had when we were a child, where someone said, "Stop crying." And we learned how to shut that channel. And so now...
What? There was no... Oh, I'm sorry. I forgot you were doing that. I didn't know.
So this is the shat karmas. Now clear the places where these little micro traumas, they oftentimes then manifest. And I see it, like, to explain it, like someone says, "No, you can't," right? "No, I can't. But then how does that, what balances that is I eat ice cream, and it creates mucus. And so now that I can't has become like a mucus stagnation system in the body. And so we start getting the mucus out, and it has the capacity, the potential to, oh my gosh. Come show the, Ayima, come show the camera here.
Oh,
Come show this camera down here, the cookies. Yeah, can you see that? Yeah. That's why you come in person to yoga.
gourmet.
Those are amazing.
Wow, and they're warm.
This
Oh, thank you
is
so
top of the
much.
line baking right here.
Which purification is this? This is to do with the
Yeah.
heart.
These are gluten-free.
Thank you guys.
Thank you so much.
Maple syrup. That's the substitute, was maple syrup for the coconut sugar.
Oh,
So they're
nice.
not quite as sweet, I don't think, but
What's up, raspberries on there?
Yeah.
There's a love there, like there's a love put into it.
I
Yeah.
know.
for sure.
They're really delicious.
Yeah.
I love the raspberry.
10 for 10.
They've been, Kathleen gave them all the brownies too.
That
So
day?
they're up, yeah. So they had the brownies, and they're like,
Oh.
I like this group. They just drank some.
Love language.
They just drank some eggnog that Stephen brought, and yeah.
Nice.
So then we have all these practices. So all these practices, we did the balancing the left and right, balancing the left and right breath ways, balancing the inhale and exhale. Then we did the clearing the purifications, clearing the pathways, and that you'll see in the Pradipika, that can be done at any point and is a good one.
When you say, clearing the pathways, is that having to do with like clearing like blockages in the nadis? Is like that similar or?
Yes, and clearing the pathways of the breathways, and
Oh.
clearing the pathways of the pipes of the body, right? The colon, cleaning the colon, cleaning the kidneys, cleaning, and there's other practices too that we can go into that I would say are in the same vein as shat karmas, like a kidney flush, right? Like a kidney cleanse, dry fasting, and different things that you can do. Hot water and lemon, you know, in the morning to kind of flush the kidneys, decalcifying, things like that. These would be more involved though, right? You know, so if we're talking about fast, you know, some people do the fruit fasting or fruit juice fasting in order to access the kidneys and to unlock that kidney function in the body. And that's more involved. So the Hatha yoga, they actually keep it really simple for our benefit. But then we live in a time in a place where it's like people know how to do a liver gallbladder flush. And so we can learn some of these things, and these can be useful tools for us on our journey. Okay. So I need the break home. So now we move to, so now what we're assuming is basically that the left and the right are balanced, or we're working on it. And then we have this next set of practices, which is called the bandhas. And this is something, the word bandhas is the root word for the word that when we think about to bind or to bond, right? That bandhas is like to bind or to lock. Right, so they say that the bandhas are energy locks, is the way that usually gets described. And the bandhas begin as practices, physical practices, where we engage sphincter muscles or opposing muscles in order to direct energy. So in the Hatha tradition, it's thought of as directing energy, and now that science has become a part of the conversation, you can find all kinds of really interesting articles or talks about people talking about, oh, how do the bandhas affect our hormones? Why don't you grab that one? So the bandhas affect our hormones, and they create a hormonal situation in the body that's conducive to yoga. And we know about puberty. We know about how powerful hormones are and how powerful hormones are to change our worldview, right? So that perspective of going from being a child and then puberty sets in and you see the world in a different way because of just the hormones. So there's a hormonal paradigm that's being described by the yoga practice. And I would say that basically the paradigm that's being described is a high hormonal output, but directed differently than directed towards yoga, right? Or being horny for God. That's a shirt, there's a t-shirt somehow. Bumper sticker. Honk if you're horny for God. And
Also, yeah, I never thought about like the root of the word like hormone and like
hormone.
Yeah.
Horny. Oh,
Yeah.
I know, me neither. Maybe that is it. Or horny, you know, reproductive gods like Pan and, you know, stuff like that. So that's the goal. And that's something that is kind of talked about euphemistically. I'm just like, I don't know why. We just cut straight to the heart of it. Like sometimes we kind of dance around that, let you figure it out yourself. But another one of the words that we're going to be using is tapas, which people call burning desire for God. Horny for God. Right? Burning desire for God. Or another really good definition, I heard a guy who was talking about Sanskrit, and he was saying that he described it, maybe it was Hari Harananda, it was part of this thing. He said, tapas is desire for yoga. Suffering, we normally call that suffering. Suffering. How do we define suffering? Desire for yoga. We might not even know it's desire for yoga, but that's what this these teachers, that's the perspective they can share for us is, you know, your suffering is not unique. We all suffer, and we keep suffering as long as it's a tricky one, because you know everyone feels like my problems are unique and my problems are, you know, worse, and all these things, and mom and dad come, they might try to be like, well, it's a, and it's like, don't tell me, you don't know. And, so we can't really tell anyone. When someone's suffering, that suffering's so real, you can't tell someone your suffering is just part of life, it's not, a lot of it's in the mind, it's like, that doesn't feel very compassionate when we're suffering for someone to say that. So the yoga don't say that. We don't say, hey, it's all in your mind, Maybe you have a teacher, if you're lucky you have a teacher that you can hear that from. It's hard, you have to have a pretty ferocious teacher, and you'd have to have a pretty good relationship with that teacher, unique relationship with that teacher, because you're not going to hear from your sibling usually, or your mom or your dad or your partner. It's not going to be able to say, hey, it's all in your head, and then, but sometimes, we can hear that somehow. But usually what ends up happening is that suffering just has to get worse and worse and worse and worse and worse and worse and worse. And we look for an out, we look for some type of medication. We think, oh, maybe drugs will help, or maybe, I can satisfy it. Maybe it's caused by lack of money, or maybe it's caused by lack of something or lack of someone. And we try to fill that suffering in all these different ways. Maybe if I just watch Netflix tonight, this is somehow I'll try to medicate this suffering. And, and we think, oh, maybe someone's coming to save me. Maybe there's someone who's come to guru, or maybe once I find that special someone, that hole in my heart will finally be filled. So, but then at some point, hopefully, that's the goal, is that we figure out, like, holy smokes, this is totally on me. No one's coming to save me. What I do with my attention throughout the day is what I experience. And there's a whole host of blessings or complaints that we could focus on right now. We could sit around here and talk about all the things we're grateful for. Here's actually grab the back one. Grab this one from here. Oh, you're right. You were right. Grab this one here. So that's what these practices are for. And that's a funny one to try to talk about, but you see that if you hear the stories about the gurus, and we'll be talking about this gurus. This is not you'll never hear me say blindly follow a guru, or that gurus are somehow safe people to be around at all. Let's just take a real look at it. And that's actually kind of the definition of a guru, is someone who's dangerous. So that's a good thing to know, and that's why it doesn't fit into the same type of box. That's why yoga really doesn't fit into. Did you combine those?
Yes.
Don't combine them. Yeah. This is a part. Here, just hold this one. That's why it's tricky to talk about, because then it's like, look at Bikram, and I'm not a Bikram fan at all, but you guys have Netflix, right? Anyone see the Bikram documentary?
Yeah.
And so Bikram, what did he do? He like sexually harassed women, or worse, I don't know, and he did all this stuff, and everyone's like, this isn't befitting behavior of a guru. That's just what they do. That's just what they do. That's what, and if you're paying attention, he was teaching you something. I'm not saying he was trying. I don't know. I have no way to understand, but I guarantee you that was an opportunity for learning, especially if you fell for it. So this is one of these really tricky places, and they used to say that there's in this book called, what was it called? I think it was, it's a Pandit Rajmani book, and it's at the foot of or something about living with a Himalayan master, right? So Swami Rama wrote a book called Living with the Himalayan Masters. And then Pandit Rajmani, his student, wrote a book about his time with Swami Rama. And in it, there's this introduction about this guy who met Swami Rama in the 70s, and he had been waiting to meet this yoga guru. And he met Swami Rama, and he'd heard that Swami Rama is the real deal, and this guy is like a legit yoga guru, and which in many ways seems to be the case, that he knew what was called yoga. And he said, I'm going to devote my life to this guy. And he said to him, he said, my soul has been crying for this reunion. I'm ready to serve you. I'm ready to be your student. And Swami Rama took it pretty well. It's kind of awkward, but he was like, he was like, okay, yeah, come back tomorrow. Beautiful. And the guy shows up the next day and he's like, yep, I got you a job in Austin, Texas. All right, so here's a bus ticket. You're going to go down and start doing this work. And he said, but no, master, I want to sit at your feet. I'm ready to renounce the world. He said, you have to be a part of the world before you can renounce it. Like, go out and get a job. And so this is the story, is these masters constantly pushing us back out into the world to find that suffering. The other one is I know a guy who actually went to a monastery in India for a silence meditation retreat. It's like a 40-day silence retreat. And he was so excited to go to this silence retreat. And, I don't know what he imagined it was going to be. And he got there the first day, and they're like, here's an apron, here's some rubber gloves, here's a scrub brush, get on your hands and knees, you're cleaning the cafeteria, don't say anything. And he spent 40 days, he ended up leaving early, and he was really like, wow, I wanted to be sitting around meditating, and what did they do? They put me to work. Is that because he was being exploited? We might have this idea about what we think yoga is, right? But here he's been given an opportunity to suffer. So they say that that's what the guru does, FYI. The guru makes you suffer. Say that this is a joke. They say, if you have a family, you don't need a guru. Yeah. But there's a truth. So and it's not to just dismiss this whole concept of the guru. There is things that can only be transferred. There's information and knowledge that can only be transferred from one human being to another human being. And that's just the way it's happened. It's not on the internet. That's just the way it's happened for thousands of years. But that's got to be a good relationship. And so one of the ways that my teacher Stoma would say, he said, I call myself, there's a word in Sanskrit for it, which I don't remember. He said, I call myself a spiritual friend. Spiritual friend. That's a better way to think about it. We're all in this together. We're all trying to, figure out what this is. And it also dismantles the kind of pedestalization of another person. So these are different ways to go about this. So this Hatha Yoga gives us these opportunities to suffer. Now this next level, the bandhas, is ways that we can direct energy, direct intensity, turn on these hormones, fire up the hormones, and direct it. So the hormones, if the hormones fire up, but it makes me just horny, where does my attention go? Out into the world, right? If it turns into desire, then my attention just goes out into the world. And so the bandhas is a way of turning the attention up. And the basic description of what's happening now that we have this triangle with remember this triangle with the line through the middle and the meditating person in the middle of the triangle, that line corresponds to the spine. And then we started going through the chakras, and the chakras are the rungs of the ladder that allow us to move one step at a time into these different states of awareness so that we are on a map, right? So that there's an ability to locate them, so that we don't just have this experience of like, whoa, I had this experience of total oneness in my meditation, but how did I get there? Or whoa, I was watching Eckhart Tolle or Muji or Byron Katie or someone on YouTube, and I had this moment experience of oneness, but how did I get there? So the Hatha Yoga gives us a way of orienting. Well, you started out, you have a body, and then you have relationships, and you know how to access this perspective, this plane of awareness. And then you also have an identity, and that's a part of who you are temporarily. But then there's also this self that we share, right? This intelligence of life. We're all part of life. And so these are different ways that you could understand and orient. And now we have the chakra system, which is coordinates to be able to invoke. So let's say we wanted to sit around here and invoke the heart right now. So we want to invoke the heart chakra, Anahata chakra. We might know that Anahata chakra is green. It's the color green. We might be able to figure out how many hertz, how many vibrations a second is associated with the tone of Anahata chakra. We might be able to figure out the bija mantra, the seed mantra, that is the frequency of Anahata chakra, which is yam, yam. And then, but furthermore, we also might be able to know that Anahata chakra is in the key of compassion. So we could just start to feel compassion for someone. Gratitude. We could sit around, we could pass around the circle, we could say, hey, say one thing you're grateful for. And in this way we can invoke it. And sometimes, I don't know if you've ever been at a situation they're like, we're all going to go around and say one thing we're grateful for, and you have that thought like, I'm not grateful for anything today, right? But then once people start going around and they're like, well, I'm grateful for my mom. Oh, that's a good one, right? I'm grateful for water, and you're like, oh yeah, I'm glad we have water. It could be worse. I'm grateful for heat. Oh yeah, and people start going around and saying really surprising things that you didn't think about, and it's contagious. And next thing you know, we're all humming with gratitude. Let's try it. Let's do that. Let's go around. One thing you're grateful for. Eva, would you start us off?
Yes. I guess I'm grateful to be able to get this learning experience.
Good one. France, what are you grateful for?
I'm grateful for being able to use my body and that I'm healthy.
Good one. Maria?
I'm grateful for my baby.
Emily?
I'm grateful to have a supportive community of friends.
Good.
Grateful for the red road and the way of yoga.
I'm grateful that I was able to connect with all you guys regardless of our backgrounds and upbringings.
Sarah?
I'm grateful for my life.
Good one. Yeah, I'm grateful for warm blankets at night. Eva?
Oh, another one. I think I'm grateful for the new job I just started, new opportunities.
Good one. France?
I'm grateful for the virtual option.
Second that.
Maria?
I am grateful for season changes.
I'm grateful for the sunshine that there was today.
I'm grateful my brain is working today.
I'm grateful for my parents and our relationships have been getting better.
Sada.
Very grateful that you're doing right here.
Mm. I'm grateful for the health of my family. Eva?
Grateful for electricity, I guess.
Mm.
Warm house. It's so cold here.
Mm-hmm. France?
I'm grateful for being able to afford healthy food.
Mm.
I'm grateful for transportation.
Mm-hmm.
I'm grateful for plants and trees.
Hmm.
I'm grateful for the wood here and the forest it came from.
Mm.
I'm grateful for, I want to say, being like God opening my eyes to truth.
Mm.
Like just truth from education to food, the truth about food, the truth just as I'm getting older, I'm realizing my eyes are being opened and I'm very thankful for that.
Mm.
I'm grateful that there's still like wilderness areas that you can go to, like the Fancy Waters.
Yeah, I'm grateful for all the water around us in Minnesota, all the lakes and the wetlands, and also the spring water that we drink here, the Frederick Miller Spring. I'm grateful for that. Let's keep going.
I'm grateful for sunshine, whatever the sun.
Mm.
I was about to say that.
Yeah, she got you. You got to think of a new one.
I'm grateful for weekends.
Mm.
I'm grateful for music.
I'm grateful for like difficult experiences that made it easier to feel grateful for things.
Mm.
I'm grateful for my furry friend Bob, the whole animal world.
Mm.
It's just like so many things, like not even so many, but point because I'm grateful for everything. But I'll just say, even just for this moment that we're able, that we're continued the circle, I'm very grateful because it's a reflecting moment. But I feel really good even hearing what you guys are saying.
Mm. One of the prayers that we learned at the Sweat Lodge and in the ceremonies is Wani Washiero, and it's thank you for my life. And it's such a simple prayer, but to really feel that in your body, feel with all the cells of your body, or it's I want to live. It's really what it is. I want to live. I want to live. And so we've been praying like that, or saying that in Shavasana when we're coming out of Shavasana. Take a minute to really feel with every cell in your body, I want to live. And this is a good medicine too, because sometimes maybe part of us doesn't want to live, and so to shine that desire for life and that all that entails. I want to live. And then the next part of that prayer, Ate Omakiayo, Father, Ate, help me to live. Or grandfather, or ancestors, or spirits, help me to live. help me to live. And it's a nice thing to be able to ask for that. Because sometimes part of us, we don't know, or we feel stuck, or we feel, we're in a rut or something like that. And so to ask for that help, to ask our higher mind, to ask Mother Nature, to ask this, this miracle of life. Oh, great miracle of life. Not even a miracle, it's an intelligence. It's not even a miracle, it's just an intelligence. It looks like a miracle because we don't understand how life can be so vast and so intelligent. But to ask our life for that help. And so these are examples of how to dial in. This is, we say that's a prayer, but these are examples. When we share this gratitude, this invokes a level of awareness through the practice of gratitude. It gets, wow, that was a good one. And we share, we brainstorm, and we come up together, and we weave this frequency of gratitude, of gratefulness for being human and all of these things. So we'll stop there with the Hatha yoga practices because we're off to a really good start. And we'll talk in depth about the bandhas. But these are the introductions to the basic practices that we're going to be using, which address every level of your life. So not just this enlightenment, I'm one with everything and everyone, which is powerful medicine too, but as Jeffrey was talking today, he said all of this teachings, all of this stuff is worthless without embodiment, without it being made manifest in our life. And so this Hatha yoga practice is the practice of embodiment. Embodying these principles of balance. Embodying this, what the Buddha called the middle path. Embodying it by balancing the left and right. And turning the body into a temple, if you will, or an instrument that is tuned in a way so that the alignments of the body, the left and right, are balanced, and then the pathways are clear, and the bandhas lift. The Mula Bandha, the pelvic floor lift, the Uddiyana, the navel in, belly pulls up, the Jalandhara, we're opening the pathway through the neck, and these pathways are open so that we can meditate, so that we can have that clear passage. So we need to be in the body right now. Boom, we come down into the body to take care of what needs to be done. We need to take care of business right now. Boom, right up to third chakra, so that we have all of our personal power and our identity and our all of this stuff that we can do there. You have the day off, and we're gonna step into the heart, so that we can really be with our family and our friends and our community and the life, and really feel each other. Yep. And then we'll keep working our way up this ladder too, as it feels appropriate, and talking about these different frequencies. Part of what we got in today was this fifth chakra. And the fifth chakra is the throat, and it has to do with vibration and mantra and sound, but it also is really energy. And so this is from the perspective of these other chakras, this is a huge leap into this potential power, because remember what Jeffrey was saying about how we have every trauma, everything that's ever been uttered with the voice is all contained in the voice. And so the more that we can open up the voice, and the more that we can drop into relaxation, the more our authentic voice comes out. Right? But up at the fifth chakra, interestingly, the fifth chakra, the throat chakra, is beyond the heart. It sees things energetically. And so when you go beyond the heart and see things energetically, we can't really rest on that, is it good or is it bad anymore. It just kind of is dealing with things in this direct way of seeing what it is, or seeing what the vibration is, the frequency. It's kind of like math, right? Math is an example of something that's beyond the heart. Right? Is 2 + 2 is 4. How do you feel about it?
Glad.
Yeah, I'm glad. It's lucky. Lucky you're glad. So this is the feelings don't come into this, but they do, but they come in as being math and energy, frequency. And so then we can see these frequencies. And so it's a very direct way, but it can also be disorienting, because the heart is it's the foundation of our kind of moral sense of ethics and self and what's right and wrong and all of these types of things. Is kind of this heart, the golden rule: treat other people how you'd want to be treated yourself. And that still applies, right? But the best way to get to fifth chakra is still maintaining this awareness of the heart. And so they say that the heart is the fourth chakra, and basically in the main model, there's 7 chakras, 7 major chakras. So there's 3 above and 3 below. And then the heart's in the middle. And then the heart is the resting place, right? Because it's beyond the ego, right? But it still feels, all of these humanly concerns. Whereas when you get up into energy, and when you get even beyond that to we're one with everything and everyone, everything and everyone is one. That's the level of, we talked about Ma. Remember Ma? Maria, mom, mother, matter, material, the material world, mother nature, but we can access that, yet still have this connectedness to your life, right? So you don't end up like Ramana Maharishi, vibrating with the, this total union, this total non-separateness with everything, and starving to death, being eaten by rats. So you remember that story?
Mm-hmm.
You didn't hear that story? It's coming out of nowhere. You're like, what are we?
Stephen's like,
You just jumped. Oh, you missed that one. So we were saying that Ramana Maharishi, the story about him was he became spontaneously just aware when as a young boy, and he would go to the temple, and he found these tunnels and found these secret chambers under the temple, and he would go down there and meditate and samadhi, and he would stay down there for days and days and days, and he probably would have died down there, but one of the monks found him and saw and recognized that he was in a state of very high consciousness, because he was starving, his body was starving, and the bugs and the rats and things were starting to eat his body. So this guy pulled him out, said, please come back to teach us. And that's how then he ended up being this, massive teacher of yoga. And so grateful for that. So this is Hatha Yoga in a nutshell. So that's I think that's why it's so important too, is because it's, people coming in from their lives and coming in with our daily concerns and all of these things. And if we just start talking about, we're one with infinity in the universe, it doesn't matter if you get eaten by rats and bugs, we lost 98% of people. So that we can come in and start out and be like, okay, let's come into your body. You see what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. Let's come into your body. Boom, relevant. Let's start to regulate your breath. Relevant. It's relevant even if you think you're the ego. It's still relevant. 3, now we even have introduced the concept of identity and roles and having a persona or a mask. The word persona means mask. The word person comes from the word mask in Greek. So then the yogis are the ones they ask, who's wearing the mask? The yogi is the one who's wearing the mask. But we might have forgotten that one.
Is that like intention setting? Would that fall into like setting an intention for your practice requires some connection to an identity?
I think intention setting is, the best intentions are the ones that somehow help us go beyond our identity. Like an example would be like a selfless intention, like may all beings everywhere be happy and free. But the good thing is for the identity is that even if I think that I'm limited and it's just I, me, my, and I'm just in it for me, I'm also included in that. May all beings everywhere be happy and free. And so when we say Ishvara Pranidhana, when we say surrender to the Supreme, we could say surrender to the Supreme Truth of being, and people would be like, I'm not ready to surrender to the Supreme Truth of being. But if we say surrender to your highest self, oh, that sounds pretty good. Yeah, I surrender to my highest self. And it turns out that you being your highest self is yoga. Like what we're calling yoga and the potentiation of accessing the greatest, the highest awareness, what that looks like in your life is the highest expression of Maria. So these are some of the kinds of things, but as we work with those mantras over time, as we work with this practice of this intention of surrender to the Supreme, as we work with this mantra, may all beings everywhere be happy and free, we can start to turn these over a little bit and start to inquire into, is that even possible for all beings everywhere to be happy and free? I'm sitting here wishing that for all beings everywhere, but can I even make my friend be happy and free? No, can't. They're going through it themselves, We can be here and be supportive, and they, hopefully tell us a story, and then hopefully instead of making it about me, which we sometimes do. Oh yeah, I know. It's hopefully we can tell them a related story that doesn't, doesn't hit too close, and so that it's that's kind of what we do. Is that's what the teachers do, is they just support us. They know. You're this archetype of the father, the mother, the grandfather, mother. Like, oh, grandpa, my heart's broken. What's he gonna say? Good one. Poor baby. Can't tell someone how to fix it. So let's open it up. Let's have some questions and a little bit of check-in, and we'll take it from there. We got 8 minutes.
That's with the breath of fire. So it's on the inhale, is your stomach coming in?
Yes.
The journey?
The exhale, the stomach pulls in. Yep.
So exhale.
Yep. So when you're doing the breath of fire, as you exhale, there's a contraction of the stomach. It's yeah. And you can do it without that too. It's a more shallow breath. But when you really get that full abdominal engagement, you feel why it's called breath of fire. You start sweating really fast.
Thank you.
Yeah. A lot of these practices are a little disruptive too, like the breath of fire, for example, or the asana. These are things that are kind of disruptive to the nervous system, and so sometimes people hear, if they hear yoga's relaxing, and then they come to a yoga class and they're in this posture and they're like, I want to get it. It's like, this isn't relaxing at all, and that's where, again, these practices are inviting us in to suffer. It's not that the posture is suffering, but when we try to hold the posture, which is a good alignment, we may find somewhere where there's suffering in the body. We may discover that, and we start to feel it. And then we said the day one, what's the practice? Feel and breathe. It's that simple. Yep. So you feel the posture. And breathe. And it's good to know, no one can really help. It's good to have, people can help. That's what the spiritual practices are for. That's what the system of yoga is for. It's here to help, and we may find people along the way who can say the right words or whatever it is. But then at the end of the day, I don't know if you've ever had this feeling. You've been at like some event. It's like, I felt so good being a part of community, or you're at a spiritual talk and you're like, I was there and it was like, I felt like I fully got it. And then next thing you know, you're like alone. And you're sitting in your apartment and you're like, oh. You know, I felt like I was there, and now it's like, oh. And that's gold right there, that moment. Or if you wake up in the middle of the night, I was just talking about this with my dad. If you eat cacao, we mentioned that if we eat chocolate late at night, you know, or in the evening, sometimes you fall asleep and then you wake up and you're just like, right? And those moments right there, it may seem dark, it may seem cold, you may feel alone. And this is what the practice was for. That's where, that way, if you can make peace at that moment, you're doing good. That's the way in, right there at those moments. Finding this internal source of warmth. You know, not the sun, not a fire. Those are all wonderful. Not somebody to keep me warm. But of course, on this destination, we know, I feel like it's been kind of like heavy, like old man, like advice lately, like, hey, you're gonna die, you're alone, you know. But that's it. This comes back to the practice. We all die alone. And so these practices prepare us for that. So we get good at, you know, maybe at some time I thought, I am my body. I am my relationships. I am my persona. And then various things happen. Oh, you know, there's times when the body's breaking down, where your body is like, oh, it's not behaving the way I want it to. I lost control of something. One of my teachers said, he said, one day soon, there's going to come a day when something happens in your body and you realize it's not your body. It never has been. And then the relationships, and they're good, and then, you know, but then one day you're alone. All these relationships end. And that persona, it served us, you know, in some situation. Maybe my persona was like great when I was in, you know, it was like high school or whatever. It was like great. And we find ourselves in a new place, and that's just not working there. So it's that adaptability. Oh, it's changed my persona to be effective. Right? So that we're preparing, taking these things off, taking off the concept, I am this way. Sometimes that's really painful. I have some thought, that was one for me, was I'm a raw vegan. Right? I started to really identify with that and think that was like the right way, right, to eat and the right way to live. And, you know, so then taking off that identity was hard, but I had to, because it was like I was experiencing some health stuff that was happening from probably just eating really just raw fruits and vegetables. And, you know, someone could say, I did it for 15 years. Someone could say, oh, you were doing it wrong. Maybe. I put a lot of time and energy and thought and, you know, and put a lot into it. And then there was a minute when I had to just say, okay, I might die if I don't open my mind up here a little bit. Is it worth dying for to be right, you know, about something? So these things, we practice taking them off in the quiet of, you know, of course you don't want to take off your identity at a party or at work and be like, whoop. Like, that's when you need it, right? But in those quiet moments, right, at night, you can't sleep. Do you really need to be your identity at that moment? Is it making you happy? If we are our identity in the middle of the night, we're probably running thoughts over and over and over again and like, oh, I wish I could just stop thinking. I wish I could just turn off my identity, right? So that's the moment, is learning how to relax, how to take off the identity. Not to kill the identity. Sometimes people say, slay the ego. It's good to have it around when you need it. It's good to have an ego. It's good. In fact, slay it. Let's develop the ego. Let's refine. Let's get some of these rough edges off and try to fix it up a little bit. Really align it to who you are and what you want to do with it. Like a blade, like a tool. If you had, like you see these guys, the chefs, and they have the knives that they put that razor's edge on it. There's something that's attractive about that, right? The knowing how to take care of your tools. You see the fireman with the axe, like, whoosh. It really hones that tool. And yet to be able to put it down in the quiet safety of the present moment, to be able to relax totally, to relax the whole body. All these places, even where there's subtle tension, just let it go. And we practice relaxing like this because one day, like the teacher said, he said, one day something's going to happen that's beyond your control. And you're going to realize you were never in control. And at that moment, all you can do is surrender. And so that's a really good skill to practice, is surrendering. Remember? Ishvara Pranidhana. Surrender to the Supreme. It's good for that moment that is going to come. But it's also good for this moment too. So if we can surrender to the Supreme, and like today is pretty good. Like today, the sun coming in, reflecting off the car. If we can just surrender to the Supreme, I don't have to be worried about things that are beyond my control. It's beyond my control. It's like that serenity prayer. Anyone know that one? How's it go?
God grant me the serenity to accept the things that cannot change, the courage to change the things that can, and the wisdom to know the difference.
Yeah. To accept things I cannot change. The courage, the fearlessness to change the things I can. This is no lack of responsibility. This is full responsibility, the courage to change the things that I can change. And the wisdom. Hey, it's that time.
What's that one called, Marissa?
The serenity prayer.
The serenity prayer. I've heard it, but I didn't know.
I
Yeah.
believe there's an extended version of it too.
The remix. The extended version, the dance version. That's what we gotta come up with,
Like
the
a
serenity
dance.
dance.
Yeah, how does it go?
Yeah.
To the right. To the left. Yeah. So we get to do this. Good ones, you guys. Thanks for everything today. And thanks for your flexibility in joining us virtual and joining us in person and virtual and making that happen. We did a lot of interesting configurations by having Eva and Jeffrey on Zoom while we were recording the live group with the phone. And France was here too. And then Jeffrey left and France went virtual. And we have...
You need a TV crew, camera one.
we need a TV crew.
Coming in live from
France. The TV crew. Yeah, we'll get it. Okay. Thanks, you guys. And I've been sending out these emails too, so we'll put a little bit about that, and then there's some journal prompts and things in there too, if you get the chance to open the emails, and I can see how many people opened them. So
Open them.
I just got the Manjali Sutra book.
No, mine just came today. I got
Oh,
the email
good.
there at my house, so I can start reading.
Patanjali.
Okay,
Thank you. Have a good night.
Guys.
Got these, raw goat milk,
Oh, goat milk.
raw honey, and
Really?
what else was in there?
Egg,
raw
raw
eggs.
egg.
Someone say Edna.
Raw eggs, but it's all raw.
Okay.
You're welcome.